Hello, this is H.G. Bailey, and welcome back to Let's Play SimCity! Before starting to build my next city, I wanted to go a lot more in-depth as to how the mechanics of land value and police coverage work, beyond what you can actually see in the game. So I figured I'd just start with practice here, just because it's a relatively small area to simplify things as to how everything works. So what I want to do is demolish all of the forest and coastline tiles here, so I know exactly what I'm working with. Like this. Okay, so we got everything here, and then the way the map is constructed, it consists of 120 tiles horizontally and then 100 tiles vertically. And from all of those, it divides the map into regions of 4x4. So, like, you have 4x4 in the upper left, then another one next to it, and so on and so forth. Kind of like a checkerboard, like this. There we go. So I just used the money cheat just to have the money to destroy everything and place all the parts here, just to visually show you how land value is distributed. So this will determine the base land value for each of the 4x4 regions. So in order to figure out what your land value is, you add up all of the tiles that are forest, park, and water, and then multiply that sum by 15. So, like here, we've got 16 tiles of park times 15. You get 240 land value. So even this 4x4 region that gets cut off by the edge of the island still gets that massive land value from the parks and the water that's going in there. So you still got 240 land value for that area. And then the way gifts factor into that is if a 4x4 region has at least one tile that is taken up by a gift, you get the land value for the entire 4x4 region boosted to the maximum of 255. So if you want to optimize your gift placement, you want to make sure you have at least one tile in 4x4 regions to get the best out of that. So if you're not familiar with all this, and let's say you put a gift like right here, you're only going to get that land value boost for the little 4x4 region there. So yeah, you're not going to be able to get all of that there. And then the land value from these 4x4 regions somewhat spills over into the neighboring 4x4 regions that are horizontal or vertical to that, not diagonally. It doesn't work that way, at least not with land value anyway. And then, okay, so let me give you an example of how to optimize your gift placement with the way I developed my practice city. Okay, so here we've got all of the rails that I used, or at least a lot of them that I used in developing the city there. And then one of the gifts that I used was placed right here. So that way, I'm just using fire departments to represent the gift. But then, so the gift provides land value to these entire 4x4 areas. So then when I put a zone over it, we get that benefit if the center tile of the zone is in these 4x4 areas. So like these zones would all get that benefit, but like this one does not because it's outside of it, nor does this one either, because you see the center tile is just one tile to the left of where I would need it to be to get that benefit there. So that's also why I filled in some park over here when I demolished the police department, so that way I could boost the land value of this commercial zone and create another C-top there. And then I just demolished rebuilt the police department there once I no longer needed that. But if I want to maximize the value of my gifts, let me try that again here. So let's see, I put my gift right there, then I get the full benefit for all of the 8 zones that would surround it. So that's a way that you can get sort of like the donut build for a city while using columns instead. And columns make laying things out a lot easier there. But yeah, I'll put the algorithms to how land value works in the video description there, like how it sort of spills over into the neighboring regions. Now, the problem that could also happen is, let me go back to the city build I had here. And then if you go into the map to look up land value, it subdivides the land value into 2x2 regions. So like you see that little green square in the lower right of the area there, that's a 2x2 area. And those areas take the base land value, and then they also take into account a few different factors that take away from that land value, most notably wherever the center of your city is, and then the distance from that center will also contribute to the land value. So if you're too far away, you'll have your land value greatly reduced by that. And then it also takes pollution into account, so that's why all this land value is really low there. And then if your crime rate is really, really high, like red, then that also takes away from the land value as well. There's a complicated algorithm that I'll put in the video description there. But you really don't need to worry that much about the 2x2 land values. Just make sure you place your gift onto 4x4 areas, and you'll pretty much be fine there. So let me give an example of how this might work with a donut build, let's say. Okay, so if we are over here, I think this will work. Let me see. Okay, so from here. Okay, so let's say I put a gift right there. And then I want that to benefit every zone that is surrounding it. So all of those will get the land value boost. And then I could put, let's see, rails all around there, and because I have a gift in the middle there, they don't depend on having rail access or any transportation access, so you still get the full benefit out of the land value from the gift. That's why the donut build is somewhat favored by some people. But if I try to duplicate that, like horizontally or vertically next to that, you'll see the center tile only covers 2 of the 4x4 regions, so the only places that would really benefit from the gift are the vertical ones in the middle here. These ones, not so much. I mean, you'd still have some spillover, but like with this 9x9 area there, you'll get the pretty much guaranteed R tops and C tops there. As long as, you know, like these two don't merge together or something like that. So if you want to do a donut build, you kind of have to, split them up a little bit. Let me see if I can do that here. Yeah, this will work. So instead of just completely surrounding the region with rails there, I kind of interconnect the donuts next to each other. Okay, so if we got like this, I think that'll work. Yeah, okay. So we get all these interlinking together, and as you can see, the center area in each of the donuts covers 4 4x4 regions. So that's one way that you could get the donut build to really work. And that's what I'm going to do in the next city that I build. And it gets pretty crazy with how everything has to connect to each other. And you notice with the way that I have all this set up, every zone is touched by one rail, at least. So like this commercial zone gets touched there, this residential gets touched here, and so on. So everything just interconnects together like this. And by the way the game updates for land value, on slow, it recalculates or updates the land value every month or every 4 weeks. Every month in the game is subdivided into 4 weeks, so you have 48 weeks a year. So just go with that. But then, okay, so it updates every month on slow, then every 2 months on medium, and then every 4 months on the fastest speed there. So that's one of the big reasons why I like to use the slowest speed other than a complete stop there. Alright, so let's see. I think that's everything with land value. Oh yeah, one other thing with using gifts, as far as whether they would be really beneficial or not. Let me go back to the example here. So like with this one only boosts the land value for 5 zones. And if I'm trying to build them up into C top there, I would get an extra 160 people for that extra level for each of those zones. So let's say we got, well, the 5 here times 160, you would get 800 people more than you would otherwise get out of these zones. It is possible to create a C-top or an R-top without the use of a gift, but it requires a lot of meticulous building strategies there that I will go into eventually. So what if I didn't have that gift at all, and I just filled the entire, let's say 2x3 of commercial zones there? They would only, say, get up to 800 people at level 5 there. So if I did that instead, I would have 4,800 people with those 6 commercial zones, and then I'd get another 800 here. So if you're going to use a gift, you, at the very least, want to break even on the number of extra people you'll get into those tops there. So you want it to boost the land value of at least 5 zones. If you can get more, so much the better. But I did that here, like in the practice city there, because not only did I break even on the population boost of using a gift instead of just another zone there, but I also got that special income from there as well. So I figured that was worth it there. But I don't use as many gifts in some builds, depending on how I set things up. Alright, so I think that's everything for land value. Let's take a look at how police coverage works. It's kind of similar, except the entire city is divided into grids of 8x8, like this. Now, I know what you're thinking, viewers. H.C. Bailey, if all these zones are 8x8, and the number of vertical tiles is 100, how does that work? Because, well, you wouldn't have room for 8x8 on the bottom there. It's not evenly divisible into 100 there. Actually, you know what? Why don't we use this for an example? So what it does is you start in the upper left corner, and then you got the 8x8 grid, and it spreads throughout the city from there. And then at the bottom, you would simply have a grid of 8x4. So you get a much smaller area for your police coverage there. So that's something you may want to take into account if you're doing a full city build. So the way the game calculates police coverage is the police coverage in an 8x8 area depends on the number of police departments that you have with their center tile in the 8x8 region. So like if I put the police here, it doesn't work like gifts. No, the base value of police coverage from that police department only applies to the 8x8 region there. So like these areas, they don't get that full benefit like gifts would work. But it does still spread out from there, somewhat similar to how gifts are. So let's say you have an 8x8 region with one police department in there, and really you don't need more than one. And then from there, the base police coverage is cut in half for any of the 8x8 regions that are horizontal or vertically aligned with that. So like these four would get half of that police coverage. And then from there, the ones that are diagonal to the 8x8 region with the police department, the diagonal ones get half of this value from there. And then from the diagonal value for the 8x8 regions that are 2 regions away from the police department gets cut in half from that diagonal value. So you got the base value, half of that, and then half of that. And the way I set up my police stations was to take all of that into account so I could eliminate most of the crime without putting a police station everywhere in each of the 8x8 regions. Really, if I wanted to, get as much crime out of the city as possible, I'd probably put a police department in every other 8x8 region. Unless you have, say, a police headquarters, then I might be able to get away with less police departments. So the police coverage works the same way for police departments and police headquarters. It still represents the same number of 8x8 zones here. So like the base value, half, but the base value is doubled there. So you pretty much have no crime in an 8x8 region that has the center tile of a police headquarters in there. And then you'll still get a lot of police coverage in the adjacent 8x8 regions, as though you have just a regular police department there. And then it starts to, get dwindled in the diagonal and the zones that are, the regions that are further away from that. So I'm going to be taking that into account in a lot of, all of my city builds, but especially in the upcoming ones. But how do you develop a city with the donut build that I was mentioning there, putting the gifts to even better use? Find out next time on Let's Play SimCity! This is H.C. Bailey, signing off. Have a good day!